Thank you, sir. Mr. Lieu is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start off by thanking the witnesses for being here today. When I was in the California State Legislature, I worked to decriminalize marijuana, and I was one of the ballot guide authors for their successful ballot initiative that eventually decriminalized marijuana in California. I want to touch on what my colleague, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, said about the Controlled Substances Act and drill down into that some more. So Dr. Nathan, in your testimony, you stated that cannabis should have never been made illegal for consenting adults. It is less harmful to adults than alcohol and tobacco, and the prohibition has done far more damage to our society than the adult use of cannabis itself. So I agree with that. Are alcohol and tobacco within the Controlled Substances Act as regulated?
I'm sorry, are alcohol and tobacco?
In the Controlled Substances Act.
They are not.
Okay, even though it is the generally accepted view that those substances are more dangerous than marijuana, correct?
Correct on both counts.
So the Controlled Substances Act has different schedules, and Schedule 1 is deemed to be the most harmful and potential to abuse. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and marijuana is in Schedule 1, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and it's along with other drugs such as heroin and LSD, correct?
That's right.
In your view, is marijuana would also be less dangerous than either heroin or LSD, correct?
Correct.
All right. Schedule 2 is deemed to be less dangerous than Schedule 1. And some of those drugs include cocaine and fentanyl. Would you agree that marijuana is less dangerous than either cocaine or fentanyl?
I agree with that.
Right. So what we have here is this completely irrational system where drugs are more dangerous, like alcohol and tobacco, are not even in the act. And then drugs like heroin and LSD, which are far more dangerous, are in the same section as marijuana. And then you've got Schedule 2, which has cocaine and fentanyl, which is classified as less dangerous than marijuana. The whole system, to me, seems irrational. So I think marijuana should be taken completely out of the Controlled Substances Act. One of my colleagues on the Republican had said earlier today that he would support moving marijuana to Schedule 3. Mr. Levin, what would that do if it moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3?
It would open up research and it would solve our tax problem, which is specific to Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, but it wouldn't open up banking and it wouldn't do a lot of the other things that folks are talking about.
And if it was simply moved to Schedule 3, it would actually still not be authorized for consenting adults.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of the banking issue, right now it's largely an all-cash industry, is that right?
We are able to get some sort of commercial banking services through credit unions or community banks mostly, but it's hodgepodge and it's dicey at all times.
Would you say the majority of businesses are banked or the majority are not?
So the FinCEN guidance talks about establishing a relationship with the entity that you're banking with. So what we see in new emerging markets like California and states that just opened up more recently, those are almost all cash businesses. And as the businesses exist for a couple of years, they could eventually get some sort of commercial banking services, but we can't get loans. We can't do anything outside of get electronic deposits and payments.
And for a business that has trouble accessing banks, if they are relying on large amounts of cash, that poses certain elements that makes it riskier for that business in terms of just safety, correct?
Yes, sir.
It also would make it easier to avoid taxes, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me ask sort of this one last question, and I'll ask it of Ms. Mosby. Thank you for your great work on it. Even if we were to remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act, states could still criminalize if they so choose to, right? Because states have vast discretion in criminal law matters.
They would still have the ability to legalize, tax, and regulate or make a determination about the criminalization of marijuana.
Thank you. So my view is that it is a huge waste of federal resources to criminalize marijuana. Our patriotic and outstanding FBI agents and prosecutors should be working on taking down child sex trafficking rings. They should be working on preventing interference from foreign agents in our elections. They should be rooting out corruption in Washington, D.C. They should not be investigating and prosecuting marijuana crimes. And let me just end with this. My view is that everything in politics seems impossible until it happens. So 15 years ago, I would tell you, hey, in 15 years, we would have gay marriage in 50 states, and in some of those states, we'd be smoking weed. You think I was crazy. But that is, in fact, what is happening now. So I appreciate the fight. Keep on fighting, and I believe we can get this done. I yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.